there anything you can't have?
Well, I believe if you think that you can't have it, you probably won't have it. You have to go into everything with a positive attitude. You know, they say that, I was telling somebody a little bit before, they say that the human mind is only using 1% of its potential, and that if the human mind could use 3%, you could do literally anything. You could cure the major diseases. You could do anything. Just one mind in this world, if it could get up to 3% of its maximum potential.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video in ZT and Theta Maths, and today we're doing what? Come on guys, you know, we're doing more integration. Now, you guys really enjoyed that last integration video. Got quite a lot of views and quite a lot of likes for my first very successful video. I'll show it right here. And now, without further ado, make sure to subscribe and like this video to make sure it goes out to as many people as you possibly can. And now, without delaying this any further, we'll be doing this question. So this question is a definite integral. Now that's the first thing you've got to notice. It's a definite integral. A definite integral means no plus c. You don't need a plus c, but what this does mean is that you have more work. So the question simply says here, find the value of the constant k, 0 which is less than k which is less than 9, such that this is true. Now it's important to know that it equals to 20 and your numbers are 9 and k, and it's 6 over root x with respect to x. But first we have to play around with the numbers a bit. So first off, we notice this 6 is kind of in the way, and you don't want it like that. So what most people would do here, skilled mathematicians, is put that 6 down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross this out, put a 1 here, and now here's a 6. This makes this much easier because you can just multiply through by that 6 on the end. So now what we can choose to do is choose to simplify this part. Simplifying this part is easy because if we know what root x is in its index form, we know that it is just x to the power of a half. Very easy. Cross this out and let's just put x to the power of a half. Now that we know this is x to the power of a half, what this means is that because it's on top of a fraction, it's going to be to the power of minus a half because it acts as flipping a fraction. So whenever you have 1 over x to the power of a half, this is the same as saying it'll be x to the minus a half. It's just a rule. You don't have to know where it comes from. You just have to know that it's a thing. Now, given that we know all these facts, we can rewrite our integral in a much more familiar looking manner and a much more easier looking manner. So now we have an integral of 9k, 6 outside, x to the minus a half with respect to x, and it equals to 20. Now that this is true, we can use our standard integrating technique, which is very simple, and I showed you it in the last video. And the standard integrating technique is used like this. You add on 1 and then you divide by the new power. The new power I know already will be a half. It will be a half because a minus a half plus 1 is just a half. So we're going to just put a half here. What we have to do next is choose to integrate this integral that we have just formed very nicely here. But let's just play around with this. This is just the same as saying 2x to the power of a half. 2x to the power of a half. Now what's interesting is that we can now take this 2 out again and multiply it through to this. So we can rewrite this integral again. We took that 2 out, so that way it's not a problem. So now we're going to have 12 because we had our 2 times 6, and now we're going to have our this thing. And next what we're going to have is our x to the power of a half, and it's not going to have that bracket. What it will have is a 9 and a k beside it. Now the next thing we know, it was equal to 20. So now that we know, what we can do is we can say to resolve this. And you may be asking,
well, Theta Maths, how do you solve something that looks like this?
I'll show you. First you want to do add a 12 and you add a big bracket again, but then you add another little bracket. Now what we're going to do is resolve this number first before this letter. So 9 to the power of a half, we know is just 3 because x to the power of a half, as we mentioned before, is the same as a square root. So what we can do is the square root of 9 is 3. Now we can choose to now subtract. This is what it means. When you have this and this, you subtract them from each other. That's how you do it every time. We have next k, and that's just going to be to the power of a half. So that's just going to be a square root. Now you can choose to put it as a power of a half, or you can just put it as a square root. It really doesn't make a difference. And now we put a large bracket around it and we make it equated to 20 because that 20 is not going anywhere. It's got to stay there. It has to stay there. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to multiply this out. So multiplying this out, let's use our basic maths. 12 times 3 is 36, you say. Alright, 36 and 12 times by k to the power of a half, 12k to the power of a half, but it's subtracted. So what I'm going to do is write this a little bit more lower, minus 12k to the power of a half, and that's going to equal to 20 as we put here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this onto this side and put that onto this side. So the first thing we're going to do is going to subtract this, and that's going to just do this. And we're going to add on this, add on itself. We're going to add this and it's going to go onto this side. So the first thing we're going to do is this is going to equal your 16 and that's going to equal to your 12k to the power of a half. Now you choose to divide this by 12. This can be simplified. Divide both sides by 4, so that gives you 4 over 3 as your simplification, which equals to k to the power of a half. And now, because it's to the power of a half, to get rid of that half, you're going to have to square it. Because when you do this, it's the same as multiplying. It's the same, so we're going to have to square this side as well. And what that will give us is k will just end up equating to 16 over 9. Very beautiful question. And I'll move on to the next question as soon as you're ready. I